It's no secret I love Rayman, more than Ubisoft does anyway, and as I've already looked at Rayman 2 and 3 and refused to accept Rayman 1 as being a real game, and I would very much like to ignore anything with a rabbit in it, I think it's time we start diving into some of the more obscure and spin-off type Rayman games. So here I bring you my video on Rayman M, or Arena, or Rayman Rush. Yeah, this is one of those games again. This game was released on a bunch of consoles with a bunch of different names between regions and consoles, and it's altogether just a mess. So I'll be referring to it as Rayman Rush, because I like alliteration, and I played it on PlayStation 1 version 2. Yes, this is generally regarded to be the worst version, and yes, I will get into why that is. And yes, this is the version I played as a kid. Just let me have this, okay? Right away, I want to make sure you understand what this game is. It's not a platformer. It's not a racing game. Well, it is both of those things, but really, it's a party game. This game isn't any fun to play alone. The fun comes from when you plug in a second controller and race with your friends. Sadly, I still haven't found any of these friends. Seriously, I live in a retro datascape. It gets lonely here. So I'll have to play through the single player of this game. The single player consists of 3 zones with 4 levels each. Pirate, Tree, Wheel, and Coffin? Yeah, that's pretty weird, but at the end of the day, it's just menu buttons, so who really cares? We start in Zone 0. Wait, 0? I really don't get why you couldn't just start off at Zone 1. It's not like this zone is a tutorial level or something. It's not significantly different in any way, so why not just call it Zone 1? Was there no game designer involved in this game? What rogue programmer made this decision? A race might start at 0, but levels start at 1, damn it! To all 3 people watching this who get that joke, you're welcome. To everyone who didn't, let's move on now, shall we? Every level has a number of modes, all of which unlock something different. There is your standard championship mode, which is just a race against the AI. This mode actually is pretty difficult, and I would generally advise you to play this last, even though it's the default position of the cursor when loading up the menu. When you beat the AI in this mode, you unlock the level with the same icon as the one you just played, but in the next zone. So technically you ever only need to do these championships if you want to get all of the levels unlocked. When running around these levels, you get a stun attack that can freeze your opponent if it hits. There's no aiming involved really, everything in this game is based on auto-aiming, which only really works every 3rd Tuesday of the month during a full moon, it seems. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want manual aiming controls while I try to platform and race my opponent at the same time, but at least make the auto-aim feel like it works, because I did end up missing not only my enemy, but also stage hazards a bunch of times. Oh yeah, there's stage hazards. Sometimes it'll be one of those tentacle things from Rayman 2, which will stun you if you get too close. But you need to get close for them for the auto-aim to trigger, and when these things are placed on a staircase, it's near impossible to get into the range to shoot them without getting into their range for them to hit you. It is the worst. Especially if the staircase just so happens to be located before the finish line. While the game also has very strong rubber banding AI, meaning that at any point it can overtake you if you make as much as a small mistake. There's also these buttons that you can shoot to make things change in levels, like boost pads going the other way temporarily, so you can send your opponent backwards if you time it correctly. Or you can make these trampoline buttons appear or disappear. Sometimes even the platform layout moves around. Altogether, I do think this is a really fun feature, and most levels have at least some amount of this inside them. Then there's Time Attack, where you don't race an enemy but instead have to make it to the next checkpoint before the time runs out. You may notice this little progress tracker up on the corner, which has 3 seconds to it. You may assume that those indicate those checkpoints. Well, you'd be wrong. Those colors literally do not mean anything, and you should probably feel bad for even looking at them. In this mode you only need to complete 1 lap, instead of the 3 laps you need to complete in any other mode, and that is for the best. Without enemies to deal with, huge stretches of these levels can feel slow and boring with nothing really happening in them. This is only partly helped by the fact that when you walk over a boost pad, you can spam the triangle button for a small boost in speed, and when you land from a jump, if you time it correctly, pressing the triangle button also gives you a small boost. This is actually a pretty tricky mechanic to master, and it will give you a real advantage, even against the rubber band AI, which, of course, isn't present in this mode, but it makes it a great mode for practice if it weren't for practice mode. This mode is rather useless, but I'll give you some credit where credit is due. The game doesn't have a tutorial, and it doesn't even give you the non-stop button prompts during the levels. Instead, you can choose practice mode in any level. This will give you the button prompts, so you can learn the ins and outs of how to play this game. And you're not just stuck with doing this in a tutorial level, you can play any level you want in practice mode. This is honestly something that other games, even modern games, could learn a thing or two from. Anyway, when you finish Time Attack, you unlock Lumps mode. This is the same as Championship mode, but the levels are now filled with lumps. Do you need to raise your enemy to see who can get the most lumps? No. Do the lumps give you extra attacks? Maybe increase your speed? No. They don't do anything, and you can ignore them altogether. I guess if you want to 100% a game, you technically need to collect them. And it seemed like that when I got all the lumps in one level, I unlocked a character, but honestly, I can't be sure those two things were related. You start the game with a number of characters and 4 question marks that need to be unlocked. You may think, oh, 3 zones, so 1 character per zone, and then 1 character that unlocks otherwise. And while that is a very logical way to think, you have to understand, this game doesn't do logic. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount of logic behind unlocking these characters, or at least the game doesn't tell you what you did to unlock them. And while we're on the topic of characters, who the fuck is Tilly? You have so many characters to use from Rayman 2, the Taintsies, Leader Fairy, that one dude from the Cave of Bad Dreams, the dude who sold Razorbeard, the Giant Mac, but instead you throw in a character that nobody's ever heard of since or before this game? Count me confused. The last mode is Target mode, in which you need to take out all of the butterfly, finish 3 laps and all do it within a time limit. You might not have to take out all of the butterflies, as they only seem to really give you a time bonus, which you'll need, so maybe you can skip some and still finish the level. But honestly, going around and getting all of these is just a lot of fun, so I never really finished a level without getting all of the targets. This more or less also functions as a boss fight. While the championships are really the most difficult to win, these target rounds really test your skills of all the different parts in the level, as well as sometimes having to be pretty precise with your moves. This mode is mostly where you'll be able to tell that the auto-aiming is a little bit hit or miss in this game, literally. While you tend to miss a lot of shots in Championship mode just due to the fact that your target is moving around as well, in this mode Rayman will just sometimes refuse to lock onto a target and attack nothing instead. Which is the perfect analog for how this game feels to control. It's not horrible, but it's clunky and unpolished. Rayman does not like jumping onto ledges, even though he still has his grab ability. You usually just end up getting stuck on a ledge until you can glitch your way back on top of the platform. Aside from that, jumping absolutely kills all of your horizontal momentum, making it feel sluggish and slow. I'm not sure why they would do this. My best guess is to prevent glitches to build up speed through jumping and hovering, or maybe to just limit the speed at which you can hover. Oh yeah, Rayman, of course, has his hover ability also, because of course he does. But since you can play as a lot of other characters and all characters need to be equal, you get into a weird situation where all these characters suddenly need a way to fly. For Glowbox, that's not that big of a deal, just balloon them up. But the robot pirates are a little bit less natural. Now, does this impact gameplay? No. Would I prefer all characters to play slightly differently? No. That would create a whole list of other issues, so the way they ended up solving this is probably the best they could have done, but it's painfully obvious that they made this game as a Rayman game, then realizing how boring it was to play in single player, made it into a party game, meaning that everyone had to be on an even playing field. Completing all these modes for one level takes about 15 to 20 minutes or so. So that clocks in about an hour or so per zone. So no more than 3, maybe 4 hours if you're slow for the whole game. And most of the time spent doing very repetitive stuff. Obviously, this main story, for lack of a better term, is mostly just there for you to unlock levels and characters to use in multiplayer mode. But as I mentioned, I'm a loner, so I don't like this game anymore. Besides, if you're going to play this game, for the love of God, don't get the PlayStation 1 version. Literally any other version will do. The game looks, feels, plays and is better on the PlayStation 2 and GameCube. I'm not sure if this was an emulation issue or a game issue, but I had this consistent audio glitch too. Normally I would assume it's an emulator issue, since the last video I made also had an audio glitch, but this is actually something I've heard other people talk about too, so I'm thinking this might just be up to Ubisoft. Long story short, sometimes on this show a game surprises me, in either a positive or a negative way. Sometimes I have high hopes that get utterly destroyed. Sometimes I expect a game to be really bad and end up actually enjoying it. This, I knew it would be bad, but even so, the game was much worse. So please, don't forget to leave a like on this video as a support for my suffering to make this video, and hit the subscribe button with the notification bell on to make sure that you actually see it when I talk about a good game again. Someday. Maybe. Until then, I've been Vlogger, you've been awesome, as always. Bye.